The massive crystal chambers of Nexus Prime gleamed under artificial starlight as hundreds of alien representatives gathered for the most important trial in galactic history. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime, converting dozens of different languages into something resembling understanding. At the center of it all stood Director Kim Yuna, the sole human representative, her dark suit a stark contrast to the flowing robes and exotic forms surrounding her. Kim Yuna kept her face calm as she watched the alien judges take their positions. The Vorthack floated in their energy bubbles, their translucent bodies pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. The insect-like Nexari clustered together, their compound eyes reflecting the chamber's light like tiny mirrors. Ancient Zephyrians, beings of pure crystal and light, hovered above crystalline thrones that had stood for millennia. "The trial of the human species begins now," announced Elder Kamoth, his voice ringing to the chamber like struck glass. "You stand accused of excessive aggression, unprovoked violence, and threatening the peace that has existed in this galaxy for over 10,000 years. Kim Yuna had known this day would come. The signs had been building for months. Trade agreements mysteriously canceled. Diplomatic meetings postponed indefinitely. Human colonies reporting increased surveillance from Council ships. But knowing something was coming and experiencing it were two very different things. The evidence is clear," continued a Nexari spokesman, his voice buzzing with the collective thoughts of his hive. "In the Kepler system conflicts, human forces destroyed an entire Vorthack battle fleet. In the Titan Nebula incident, human military tactics resulted in the complete surrender of Zephyrian forces within hours. Most recently, human colonists on Zirian Prime drove off 3 different species, attempting to establish mining rights." Kim Yuna stepped forward. "In each case, human forces were defending themselves or their colonies. The Vorthack attacked our supply ships without warning. The Zephyrians tried to force our evacuation from planets we had legally settled. The mining companies on Zirian Prime were operating illegally in human territory. Your methods are the problem," interjected a towering Altarian representative, his multiple arms gesturing dramatically. "Other species negotiate. They find peaceful solutions. Humans respond to every challenge with overwhelming force. We respond with effective force," Kim Yuna corrected. "There's a difference." Elder Kaimotha's form brightened, a sign of growing anger among his species. "Your military doctrine calls for total victory in every engagement. Your soldiers are trained to fight until the enemy surrenders unconditionally. This is not the behavior of a civilized species." Kim Yuna looked around the chamber, at faces both alien and familiar. Some showed curiosity, others fear, but most displayed the cold certainty of judges who had already made their decision. She had spent 5 years as humanity's ambassador to the Galactic Council, trying to bridge the gap between human nature and alien expectations. Now she realized it had all been pointless. "You want to know why humans fight the way we do?" she asked, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "Because we learned long ago that half measures get people killed. When something threatens our families, our homes, our future, we don't negotiate with it. We eliminate it." A collective shudder ran through the assembly. This was exactly what they feared hearing. The Vorthack representative pulsed with agitated light. "This confirms our worst fears. Humans see every disagreement as a war to be won rather than a problem to be solved. Because that's what they are," Kim Yuna replied simply. "When someone attacks our ships, that's not a disagreement. When someone tries to steal our colonies, that's not a problem to be solved peacefully. That's an act of war." Elder Kaimoth raised one crystalline appendage, and the chamber fell silent. "The council has heard enough. We will now deliberate." The aliens withdrew to their private chambers, leaving Kim Yuna alone in the center of the great hall. She had no illusions about what was coming. The decision had been made before the trial even began. This was just theater, a way for the council to feel better about what they were planning to do. 3 hours later, the assembly reconvened. Elder Kaimotha's form blazed with formal authority as he delivered the verdict. "The Galactic Council finds that the human species poses an unacceptable threat to galactic peace and stability. Therefore, humanity is hereby exiled from all civilized space. You have exactly one solar cycle to evacuate all human colonies within Council territory. After that deadline, any human vessel found in Council space will be destroyed without warning. Kim Yuna had expected this, but hearing it spoken aloud still hit like a physical blow. 2.5 billion humans scattered across 47 worlds, all of them about to become refugees. Furthermore, continued Gamoth, all trade agreements with human entities are void. All diplomatic relations are severed. All technology sharing agreements are canceled. Humanity will have no contact with civilized space until such time as your species learns to resolve conflicts through peaceful means. As the alien representatives began filing out, clearly relieved to have solved their human problem, Kim Yuna spoke one final time. Her words echoed through the emptying chamber with quiet certainty. You mistake our strength for savagery and our determination for madness. You're sending us into the dark, thinking it will break us. But humans don't break. We adapt. We survive. We become stronger. Remember this day, because history will judge which of us truly understood what civilization means. The chamber fell silent, except for the soft hum of the translation devices. Kim Yuna turned and walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing off crystal walls. Behind her, the aliens finished their departure, confident they had eliminated a threat. They had no idea they had just created something far more dangerous than anything they had feared. The evacuation fleet stretched across the void like a river of steel and light. Thousands of ships of every size and design humanity could manage. Admiral Park Jinu stood on the bridge of the massive carrier New Seoul, watching through the main viewport as families loaded their entire lives into cargo containers. Children pressed their faces against transport windows, staring back at the only homes they had ever known. "Final count, sir," reported Captain Lee Miho, his voice tight with emotion. 2.4 billion civilians across 47 colonies. We're taking every piece of equipment we can carry, every scrap of technology, every seed bank and genetic sample. Park Jinu nodded grimly. The numbers were staggering. In just 8 months, humanity had to abandon everything they had built over 3 centuries of galactic expansion. Entire cities dismantled piece by piece. Factories loaded onto cargo haulers. Even the orbital stations were being broken down and packed away. "What about the graves?" asked Lieutenant Choi Hannah from her station. "People are asking about their family burial sites." The Admiral closed his eyes briefly. This was the part that hurt the most. Tell them we'll carry the memory. That's all we can do. Through the massive windows, Park Jinu could see the alien observers. Council ships hung at the edge of every system, watching the human exodus with what he assumed was satisfaction. They kept their distance, but their message was clear. They were making sure humanity actually left. "Admiral," called out Communications Officer Kim Dae-ho, "we're getting reports from the outer colonies. The Vorthak are demanding we leave behind all military equipment. They say weapons technology is too dangerous to take with us." Park Jinu's jaw tightened. What did Commander Yang tell them? She said the weapons are integrated into our ship systems and can't be removed without destroying the vessels. Technically true, sir. It was technically true, but only because human engineers have been working around the clock to make it true. Every piece of military technology that could be disguised as something else was being hidden in plain sight. Weapon components disguised as mining equipment. Shield generators labeled as power systems. Manufacturing blueprints hidden in entertainment databases. "Sir, we have a problem at New Busan Colony," reported Lieutenant Choi Hannah. "The local Nexri authorities are trying to confiscate our industrial fabricators. They claim they're dual-use technology." Park Jinu walked over to the tactical display, showing the New Busan system. The colony there was one of humanity's major manufacturing centers, with orbital factories that could build everything from medical supplies to starship hulls. Of course the aliens want to keep those machines. "Give me Commander Kondo Hyen," he ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a tired-looking man in a dusty uniform. Behind him, Park Jinu could see workers frantically loading equipment onto transport ships while alien guards watched suspiciously. "Admiral, they're trying to steal our factories," Kondo Hyen said without preamble. They claim anything that can manufacture weapons stays behind. Can you work around it? Kondo Hyan smiled grimly. Already am. We're taking apart the fabricators and loading the pieces as scrap metal. The Nexari can't tell the difference between a disassembled factory and recycling material. We'll rebuild them wherever we end up. This was happening across human space. Centuries of technological advancement being packed, hidden and disguised. The aliens thought they were getting rid of a problem, but they were actually allowing humanity to take everything they needed to become even more dangerous. Admiral, Kim Dae-ho called out urgently. Priority message from Director Kim Yuna on Nexus Prime. The main screen switched to show the human ambassador, still in the crystal chambers where humanity had been sentenced to exile. She looked exhausted but determined. All fleet commanders, this is our final message from Council Space. I've just received word that several alien species are already making plans to divide up our former colonies. The Vorthak want our mining worlds. The Zephyrians are claiming our agricultural systems. They think they're getting rid of us and taking our resources. Park Jinu felt his anger rising. Not content with exiling humanity, the aliens were already planning to loot everything they left behind. But they're making a mistake. Kim Yuna continued. They think we're just another species that will scatter and disappear. They don't understand what they've done. They've taken every human in the galaxy and given us the same enemy. They've united us in a way that never would have happened if they'd left us alone. She was right. Before the exile, humanity had been spread across dozens of systems with different governments, different priorities, different conflicts. Now they were all refugees together, all heading into the unknown with nothing but each other to depend on. "Where do we go, sir?" asked Captain Lee Miho. The frontier sectors beyond Council Space are largely unexplored. Most of those worlds are classified as uninhabitable. Park Jinu studied the star charts showing the galactic rim. The regions beyond Council territory were marked in red, indicating extreme hazards. Worlds with poisonous atmospheres, crushing gravity, or deadly radiation. Asteroid fields full of debris and spatial anomalies. Systems where the stars themselves were unstable. Perfect. We go where they think we can't survive, he decided. We find the worlds they're too scared to explore, and we make them home. Signal all ships. Set course for the frontier. As the massive human fleet turned away from the lights of civilization and headed into the dark unknown, Park Jinu allowed himself one last look back at the space they were leaving behind. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem. They had no idea they had just scattered the seeds of an empire across the stars. 50 years had passed since the Great Exodus, and Commander Kondo Hyan stood on the observation deck of New Busan's primary industrial complex, watching molten metal flow like rivers of fire through the massive foundries below. The planet's surface was a nightmare of active volcanoes and toxic gas clouds, exactly the kind of world the Galactic Council had marked as completely uninhabitable for civilized species. Humanity had turned it into their greatest weapons factory. "Production report, Commander," said Engineer Song Myri, her voice cutting to the rumble of machinery. She wore the practical gray uniform that had become standard across human space, designed for function rather than comfort. "We completed 19 new cruiser-class vessels this month. The armor plating tests show our new composite materials can absorb 40% more energy than anything in the old Council databases." Kondo Hyan nodded, still amazed by what they had accomplished. When the first colonists had arrived here, they had been refugees with barely enough supplies to last a year. The planet atmosphere was poisoned. The ground shook constantly from volcanic activity, and the radiation levels would have killed most alien species within days. But humans were stubborn. "What about the new weapon systems?" he asked, walking past windows that showed the sprawling industrial city they had carved out of the volcanic wasteland. Massive geothermal plants drew power directly from the planet's molten core, feeding energy to factories that never stopped working. "The railgun prototypes are exceeding all expectations," Song Myri replied, pulling up holographic displays, showing test results. "We can punch through any shielding technology the Council species ever developed, and the new missile systems with AI guidance are incredibly accurate. Through the reinforced windows, Kong Do Hyen could see transport tubes carrying workers between different sections of the city. What had once been endless lava fields now housed gleaming residential blocks connected by underground tunnels. Children who had been born here played in protected courtyards, growing up breathing recycled air and thinking that living inside a volcano was perfectly normal. "Any word from the other colonies?" he asked. Song Myri's expression grew excited. New Incheon reports their asteroid mining operations are producing 3 times more raw materials than our old planets ever did. Turns out when you're mining asteroids in a radiation storm, you don't have to worry about safety regulations slowing you down. She switched to another display showing reports from across human space. New Taegu launched their first Dreadnought-class vessel last week. It's twice the size of anything we built before the Exile. And the research stations around New Ulsan have developed jump drive technology that's faster than anything the Council ever achieved. Kong Do Hyen studied the tactical displays, showing humanity's expanding territory. 43 worlds now, each one a fortress built in conditions that would terrify other species. They had learned to survive on planets where the air was acid, where the gravity could crush bones, where solar radiation burned through normal shielding. Every challenge had made them stronger. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Yang Sumin's fleet," reported Communications Officer Park Jinwoo from the command center. They've completed their survey of the outer rim systems. The main screen activated, showing the weathered face of one of humanity's most experienced commanders. Admiral Yang Sumin had spent the last decade exploring the furthest edges of human space, mapping systems that no other species had ever bothered to investigate. "Commander Kong, I'm sending you our full survey data. We've located 17 more systems suitable for colonization. Most of them have conditions that would kill Council species within hours, which means they're perfect for us." Yang Sumin's expression grew serious. "But more importantly, we've been monitoring long-range communications from Council space. They're starting to have problems they can't handle. Pirate fleets are raiding their outer systems. Some kind of machine intelligence has been attacking their trade routes. And there are reports of spatial anomalies appearing near their core worlds." Kong Do Hyen felt a cold smile cross his face. "Sound like they might need help. That's what I was thinking. We're not the scattered refugees who fled Council space anymore. We've become something else entirely. Something stronger. The Admiral was right. The humans who had been exiled 50 years ago had been civilians with military escorts. Families just trying to survive. The humans who existed now were different. Every adult was trained in some form of combat. Every child grew up learning to operate in hostile environments. Every world was both a home and a military base. They had been forged in conditions that would break other species. "Admiral, what are your recommendations?" asked Kong Do Hyen. "I think it's time to remind the galaxy that humanity still exists. Not as beggars asking for readmission, but as equals demanding respect." Song Myri looked up from her displays with excitement in her eyes. "Sir, if we're going back to Council space, we should show them what we become. Our ships, our technology, our capabilities. They exiled us thinking we would disappear. Instead, we've built an empire." Kong Do Hyen walked to the main viewport, looking out at the industrial complex that stretched to the horizon. Foundries blazed day and night. Shipyards assembled vessels of war, and training facilities produced the most capable soldiers in galactic history. This was just one world, and they had 42 others just like it. "Signal all colony commanders," he decided. "Tell them it's time for Phase 2 of our existence. We're going home." But they weren't going home as the same species that had been exiled. They were returning as something the galaxy had never seen before. An empire built in the darkness between stars, forged in the fires of worlds too dangerous for civilized life. The aliens had created exactly what they had feared most. The first sign that something had changed came when the Vorhack patrol ship Crystal Dawn simply vanished from the outer edge of their territory. One moment it was conducting a routine sweep of the frontier systems. The next moment its signal disappeared completely. The only trace was a brief distress transmission that spoke of impossible ships and unknown weapons before cutting to static. Admiral Yang Su-min stood on the bridge of her flagship Iron Phoenix as her fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Vortex space. Behind her stretched 50 vessels of a design that would have been unrecognizable to the aliens who had exiled humanity decades ago. These ships were angular and predatory, their black hulls scarred from battles fought in the dark spaces between stars. They moved with perfect coordination, like a pack of wolves that had learned to hunt together. Unidentified vessels, you are in violation of Galactic Council space, came the transmission from a nearby Vortex monitoring station. The voice carried the typical arrogance of a species that had never faced a real challenge. State your identity and purpose immediately, or you will be fired upon. Yang Su-min smiled coldly. The years in exile had changed her, just as they had changed all of humanity. Her face was harder now, marked by the scars of surviving in hostile environments. Her uniform was practical military gray, designed for battle rather than diplomacy. This is Admiral Yang Su-min of the Human Stellar Empire. She broadcasts on all frequencies, ensuring her words reach every inhabited system in the sector. We are the children of Earth, forged in fire and tempered in the void. We have returned not as the refugees you exiled, but as something far greater. The response was predictably hostile. A Vortex battle fleet of 30 vessels moved to intercept, their commanders confident in their technological superiority. These were the same aliens who had voted for humanity's exile, secure in their belief that humans were nothing more than violent primitives with stolen technology. Captain Bei Junwoo commanded the destroyer, relentless, in the front line of the human formation. He watched through his tactical display as the Vortex ships approached in their traditional battle formation, energy weapons charging and shields at maximum power. They moved slowly and predictably, following tactics that had worked against other council species for thousands of years. All ships, engage at will, ordered Admiral Yang Su-min. What followed was less a battle than a demonstration. The human ships moved like living things, their AI-assisted navigation systems allowing them to dodge and weave through enemy fire with impossible precision. Their weapons were unlike anything in the galactic databases. Rail guns that punched through Vortex shielding like paper and energy beams that seemed to ignore defensive systems entirely. Captain Bei Junwoo watched as his ship's main gun fired, sending a tungsten slug to the center of a Vortex cruiser at a significant fraction of light speed. The enemy vessel simply came apart, its hull unable to withstand the kinetic impact. Around him, other human ships demonstrated technologies that the Council had never imagined possible. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. When it was over, 23 Vortex vessels were drifting wreckage. The 7 survivors were fleeing at maximum speed, their captains broadcasting panic reports about human capabilities. Admiral Yang Su-min allowed them to escape. She wanted them to carry word of what they had witnessed. Admiral, we're receiving communications from across the sector, reported Lieutenant Commander Park Hyun-woo from the communication station. Every Vortex colony is demanding to know what just happened. Council emergency frequencies are lighting up with requests for information. Yang Su-min nodded with satisfaction. The news would spread quickly now. Within days, every species in Council space would know that humanity had returned, and that they had returned changed. Send a message to all Council territories, she ordered. Tell them that the Human Stellar Empire claims the right to free passage through all galactic space. We are no longer bound by treaties we did not sign or laws we did not help create. As her fleet moved deeper into what had once been forbidden territory, Yang Su-min reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. 50 years ago, humans had been desperate refugees fleeing into the unknown. They had been forced to survive on worlds that killed other species, to build cities in the hearts of volcanoes, to mine asteroids and radiation storms that would have been instantly fatal to Council races. Every challenge had made them stronger. Every hostile environment had taught them new ways to survive and thrive. They had developed technologies born of necessity, weapons created to fight enemies that existed only in the dark spaces between stars. Ma'am, long-range sensors are detecting multiple Council fleets moving to intercept us, reported the sensor operator. Looks like they're taking this seriously. Good, Yang Su-min replied. Let them come. It's time they learn what their exile created. She looked out at the stars ahead. the same stars that had once been home to human colonies before the Council's judgment. But the humans returning now were not the same species that had been cast out. They were harder, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous. The galaxy was about to discover that exiling humanity had been the greatest mistake in civilized history. The refugees had become an empire, and that empire was ready to remind everyone what humans were truly capable of when pushed beyond their limits. The Iron Children of Earth had come home. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened with unprecedented security measures. Force fields hummed around the crystal chambers, and armed guards from a dozen species stood at every entrance. The same hall that had once echoed with confident voices pronouncing humanity's exile now trembled with fear and uncertainty. Admiral Kim Yuna walked into the chamber flanked by representatives from 15 different species, all of them allies who had chosen to stand with the human stellar empire. Her grandmother had stood in this same place a century ago, listening to humanity's banishment. Now Kim Yuna returned not as a supplicant, but as a leader of the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. The alien representatives watched her approach with barely concealed terror. Reports had been flooding in for weeks about human fleets appearing throughout Council space, their ships demonstrating technologies that seemed impossible. Battle groups that had ruled star systems for millennia were being destroyed in minutes by vessels that moved like living creatures and struck with the precision of surgical instruments. "How?" demanded the Nexary spokesman, his high voice trembling with collective fear. "How did scattered refugees become this empire? Your species was exiled with nothing but civilian transports and basic colony equipment." Kim Yuna smiled, an expression that carried no warmth whatsoever. She wore the dark gray uniform of the human stellar empire, its simple design somehow more intimidating than the elaborate robes surrounding her. "You exiled us to worlds you believed would kill us. Every planet you marked as uninhabitable, we made home. Every challenge you thought would destroy us made us stronger." Elder Zephyrian Syleth floated forward, his crystalline form pulsing with agitated light. "Your weapons, your ships, your coordination in battle. These technologies surpass our capabilities by centuries. This should be impossible for a species cut off from galactic civilization." General Nam Taeyung stepped forward, his scarred face telling the story of humanity's long struggle in the darkness between stars. "Necessity breeds innovation, Elder. While your species grew comfortable in their safe territories, we learned to survive in the heart of dying stars and the depths of radiation storms. Every world became a forge. Every human became steel." The chamber fell into worried silence as Kim Yuna activated a massive holographic display, showing the outer rim of the galaxy. Red markers indicated threats that made the assembled aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. "But we didn't return for revenge," she announced, her words echoing through the vast hall. "Our long-range sensors have detected something approaching from beyond our galaxy. Machine intelligences that consume entire worlds for raw materials. Dark matter entities that exist between dimensions. Cosmic horrors that will make our old conflicts seem like children's arguments." She gestured to the diverse group of species standing behind her. "These representatives have already seen what's coming. The Karathi lost 3 outer colonies to machines that turned their planets into metal. The Tolian Republic detected dark matter signatures moving through their space at impossible speeds. The hegemony of suns recorded transmissions from something that shouldn't exist. Elder Kaimoth, the same Zephyrian who pronounced humanity's exile, spoke with obvious reluctance. "You claim these threats are real, but why should we trust the word of a species we exile for excessive violence?" Kim Yuna's expression hardened. "Because that excessive violence is exactly what's going to save you. When machine armies come to strip mine your homeworlds, your diplomatic protocols won't stop them. When dark matter predators hunt through your space, your peace treaties will mean nothing. But humans know how to fight impossible odds and win." She activated another section of the display, showing the human stellar empire's current territory. 43 worlds, each one a fortress capable of independent defense. Industrial complexes that could outproduce anything in Council space. Military academies that train soldiers to fight in conditions that would kill other species instantly. "We're offering you a choice," Kim Yuna continued. "Continue treating us as exiles and face what's coming alone. or recognize the human stellar empire as an equal member of galactic civilization and accept our protection. The Vorthack representative, still recovering from the shock of losing most of the patrol fleets, spoke with obvious reluctance. What exactly are you proposing? General Nam Taeyung stepped forward. A new treaty, the Prometheus Accords, full recognition of human territory and sovereignty, immediate cessation of all trade restrictions, and joint defense agreements against external threats. In exchange, added Kim Yuna, human fleets will patrol the galactic rim. Our worlds will serve as forward bases against whatever comes from the dark. Our soldiers will stand guard while your species sleep safely in their beds. The negotiations took 3 days. The aliens tried to impose restrictions, to limit human expansion, to maintain some measure of control over the species they had once exiled. But the mathematics were simple. Human fleets now outnumbered Council forces 3-1. Human technology was generations ahead of anything the established powers possessed, and external threats were real and growing stronger. When the Prometheus Accords were finally signed, Admiral Kim Yuna stood once again in the center of the crystal chamber. But this time, she wasn't alone and defenseless. Around her stood the representatives of humanity's allies, species that had chosen strength over tradition, survival over pride. The signing is complete, announced Elder Kamov, his voice carrying grudging respect. The human stellar empire is hereby recognized as a sovereign power and protector of galactic civilization. Through the chamber's massive windows, human patrol ships could be seen taking positions around Nexus Prime. The same species that had once been cast out as too dangerous were now the guardians of galactic peace. The exiles had become protectors. The outcasts had become the sword and shield of civilization itself. And in the dark spaces between stars, ancient threats stirred and prepared for war, unaware that humanity was waiting for them.